He didn't even say goodbye. That was Maria Steele's first thought as she stood by the living room window, her silhouette framed in the soft glow of a gray morning. Her curls, long, thick, and wild, fell down her back, but she didn't brush them away. She was too focused on the sound of tires crunching gravel. The silver Honda Civic, the one she bought him, disappeared slowly down the driveway. She didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because it had already hurt too much, too often, for too long. Today wasn't heartbreak. Today was confirmation. 5 years of marriage had led to this silent exit. No final conversation, no apology, no regret in his eyes. Just, it's over, and the slow closing of the door. She had known it would come to this. For years, she had ignored the red flags. His distance, his mood swings, the way he'd never say thank you after she worked double shifts to pay the rent. The way he'd scroll on his phone while she folded laundry at midnight or forgot her birthday like it was Tuesday. But she had stayed. Because she believed in him once. Because she thought maybe love could be enough. Because she didn't want to be seen as a failure. Jamal had promised her the world. Back when they first met, he was all fire and ambition. A struggling musician with a crooked smile and calloused fingers who played guitar like the world depended on it. "Just ride with me till I make it," he said, "and I'll give you everything." So she rode. But the ride was rough, and the road never led anywhere. While he chased dreams, she chased bill collectors. She clocked in at 2 jobs, sometimes 3, while he stayed home writing, sleeping in late, scrolling through social media, waiting on the universe to open its arms. She came home to dirty dishes, empty wine bottles, and the cold absence of affection. "No, how was your day?" "No, you look amazing." No, flowers. No, gifts. No, affection. Just silence. And expectations. She was his maid, his cook, and his bed warmer. But never his partner. And still, she stayed. Until last night. She had been late. 4 days, to be exact. At first, she thought it was just stress. She wasn't nauseous. No fatigue. But something in her gut told her to buy a test. She remembered standing in the bathroom, toothbrush in her mouth, pacing while waiting for the result. 2 lines. Positive. She sat on the toilet lid for 10 minutes, staring, not sure whether to laugh or cry. A baby? Now! Jamal had always made his feelings about kids clear. Too expensive. Too much work. Not until we've made it. She had been careful. Every month. Every time. But no protection is perfect. She waited until after dinner. She made his favorite, mashed potatoes, fried chicken, and sweet tea. Not because she thought it would make him happy, but because she wanted to remind him that she still cared. He barely touched his plate. When she told him, his fork clattered onto the floor. "You're what?" His voice wasn't confused. It was sharp. "You're pregnant? Are you serious right now?" He stood, fists clenched. "You did this on purpose, didn't you? Trying to trap me? You think now I'll stay just because you're knocked up?" She reached for him, trying to calm him down. He shoved past her, hard enough to knock her into the hallway wall. She didn't fall, but something inside her did. He stormed out, slammed the door, and didn't come back. That was last night. He returned just an hour ago. Said nothing. walked past her into the bedroom, packed a duffel bag, and as he passed her on his way out, he muttered the words she had waited 5 years to hear. "It's over." She stood by the window now, one hand cradling her still flat belly, the other clutched against her chest as she watched his car vanish into the rain. And for the first time in years, she felt relief. It rolled over her like the lifting of a storm. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't broken. She wasn't even angry. She was free. She didn't know how she was going to raise a baby on her own. She didn't know what tomorrow would look like. But she knew one thing. She would do it. For her baby. And for the version of herself she buried beneath his ego. That night, as the house grew quiet, Maria curled up on the couch and finally let the tears come. Not for Jamal, but for the girl who stayed too long. The girl who made excuses for neglect. The girl who mistook struggle for love. And as the rain tapped gently at the window once more, Maria whispered to herself, "No more." The next morning, the apartment was still. Maria sat on the edge of her bed, one hand resting protectively on her belly. 4 weeks. That's all her baby was. A cluster of dividing cells the size of a poppy seed. And yet, she already felt a strange, powerful connection. As if something sacred had just begun growing inside the ashes of everything she'd just lost. She knew she had to tell someone. She couldn't carry this all alone, so she called the only people who'd ever loved her unconditionally. Her parents. She hadn't told them everything over the years. They had always sensed things were off with Jamal, but she had protected him, covered for him, lied even. He's just under pressure. Things are a little tough right now. He's working on new music. But not this time. Maria sat at her tiny kitchen table, phone clutched to her ear, her voice trembling as she told her mother everything. Every painful truth. That Jamal had walked out. That he'd left without a goodbye. That he hadn't touched her in months. Hadn't shown love in years. That he blamed her for being pregnant. That he pushed her. And then she paused, held her breath, and said the words, "I'm pregnant." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, and then her mother, calm but fierce, replied, "Baby, you should have left him years ago." Her father got on the phone next. His voice was stern but not cold. "I never trusted that boy," he said. "You were holding up the house while he was living in a dream. And now you're having his child." Maria braced for judgment, but what she got instead was love. "We're here, Rhea," her mother said softly, calling her by the childhood nickname she hadn't heard in years. "You don't have to do this alone." That afternoon, her parents came to visit. Her mother brought homemade soup. Her father checked her locks, looked under the sink, changed a light bulb that had been flickering for weeks. And then, just as they were leaving, her mother took her hand and said, "You need time to heal. Away from all this." Maria frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Her father smiled. "A 2-week Caribbean cruise. Our gift. No arguments." She blinked. "What?" "We already called the travel agent. You leave next Saturday. It's time you remembered what the sun feels like on your skin, without someone draining the life out of you." Maria stood there, stunned. They weren't just offering her a vacation. They were offering her permission. To breathe, to rest, to begin again. That night, Maria stood on the balcony in her old college sweatshirt, watching the city lights flicker below, Inside her was a child, barely formed, but very real. Inside her heart was a mixture of grief, hope, and something she hadn't felt in a long time: anticipation. She didn't know what would come next, but for the first time in years, she was no longer waiting for someone else to give her joy. She was going to find it for herself. And maybe, just maybe, this baby wasn't the end of her story. Maybe it was the beginning. If you liked this story, we'd love to have you join our community by subscribing. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you'll always be updated with our latest videos. We'd also love to hear what you think. Drop a comment below and share this video with your friends and family. Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Thanks so much for your support. See you in the next one. And always remember, love is free.